The United States beat Uzbekistan 3-0 in this match. But I don't think that's the full story of this game, if I'm going to be totally honest. This was the return of Gregg Berhalter in this game. It was his first game back in charge since the World Cup, since his hiatus. We saw BJ Callahan win a domestic trophy for the US, go back as assistant coach. Today they face off against Uzbekistan. Not one of the top nations in Asia, but it's an up-and-coming nation in Asia. They won the U20 Asia Cup. They have a few really good players that play across Europe. And I think this was a good test for the US. They won 3-0, but I don't think that was a fair representation, at all of the game today that we watched. Because I think Uzbekistan were pretty unlucky not to have scored more goals. And if it wasn't for the late gusto from the US at the end there, the scoreline very much flatters them. I really just still am not a fan of the return of Gregg Berhalter. It was just kind of like watching today just reminded me of the USA of old. A disgusting performance for the most part. I mean, you have this great crop of players. Like the USA, I've not seen a talented group of players. And it just seems like with Gregg Berhalter, it's almost thrown all away with kind of how poorly he lines up this team. This is now in major tournaments, in games that really, really matter. Gregg Berhalter only has one win against a team outside of CONCACAF. I believe with this win against Uzbekistan makes it his second win against a nation outside of a CONCACAF team. They both coming against Asian nations, in Iran in the World Cup, and then Uzbekistan, both Asian nations. And then they do play against Oman. But for me, I think the USA, I think they're just wasting the potential that they have. Gregg's is confirmed to be the coach till 2026. And I think you're wasting the potential. I mean, you look at some of his squad call-ups. You look at the performance, for example, today, and I'm curious how things will go down against Oman. Because again, Oman's a very good Asian nation, and I'd argue most fans can agree is a better Asian nation than Uzbekistan. I mean, we're 1 point away from qualifying in the World Cup. They beat Japan. They tied to Australia. They were on the brink. There's a few things I want to talk about with Gregg Berhalter that hinders this USA team. One of them being the squad call-ups. As someone that is an outsider looking in, I'm not a USA fan, but I love the MLS and whatnot. Players like Paul Arriola, Christian Roldan, Jordan Morris, in my opinion, shouldn't be getting called up for this team. You're just hindering players, their opportunities. Like, for example, with Paul Arriola and Jordan Morris, they should be nowhere near this team, especially Jordan Morris. The fact that he got minutes in the World Cup, still gets called up to this day, it's just beyond me. Even as a Sounders fan, I can admit Jordan Morris should be nowhere near this national team. Nowhere near it. Christian Roldan, I'll give him this. He's very versatile. So if, for example, if shit hits the fan and the US needs someone at right back, left mid, right mid, Roldan can fill those positions in, but he shouldn't be playing. That's what I'm saying. If shit hits the fan, you have multiple injuries, you're desperate to replace someone in a position that you don't have anyone else you can play in, I understand that. But the call-ups, the players that he brings in, so questionable. This team is past bringing up MLS players. Sure, one or two of them I can understand depending on the player. That's one thing, but the tactics is another thing. And just when you look at the grand scale of things under Gregg Berhalter in the USA, it's a little bit worrying because with Gregg, I think you've hit the marker with him. You've hit your ceiling with Gregg Berhalter. You won a CONCACAF Gold Cup. You won a CONCACAF Nations League. You got out of the round of 16 at the World Cup. And then when you see them face off against the Netherlands, you see there's a gulping class. Imagine if they went up against Argentina. I mean, Christ above, Lord have mercy on them. You see that they've hit their ceiling. It was time for this team to go to the next level. I've spoken about it in previous videos. Get a Jesse Marsch. I mean, I know there's rumors like Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp. We're interested in it. But I think with the resources the USA have and the opportunities that they can give to coaches, I really thought they should have made the next step. I think Jesse Marsch was the guy. I mean, he's American and, he's a guy that's coached at some of the highest levels in Europe. I mean, I'm really impressed with him. I really like him. I've been following him early in his career when he was at the Red Bulls and whatnot. But he's a really great coach. I'm just using them as examples off the top of my head. I think Jim Curtin was as well rumored, Thierry Henry. I don't think those would have been great choices. But to go back to Gregg, I think was a huge mistake for the U.S. because this opportunity for the 2026 World Cup being one of the hosts with a star-studded team, a team that has a lot of potential, it hinders this team. And it kind of scares me. I know this might be, I might be speaking too early, but watching this Uzbekistan game, I know it ended 3-0, but Jesus Christ, I think everyone watching that game cannot deny Uzbekistan. The scoreline is flattering for the U.S. because Uzbekistan, I mean, the outside back for Uzbekistan and Junin or however he pronounces name was he locked down Pulisic. He was cooking the USA defense. I mean, Shomurodov had 2 really good chances that he fluffed. It's concerning because this is just Uzbekistan we're talking about. They're not even one of the top 5 best nations in Asia, and they were kind of playing USA a bit out of the park. And another thing is too with the USA, and this will be my final point, is they need to be playing friendlies, not on home soil. And I say this for a couple of reasons, because one being the biggest one, it helps get this team have more experience playing in uncomfortable environments. We've seen the USA when they play in the likes of like an El Salvador, Honduras, like they kind of struggle. These more difficult environments, they struggle because they don't have much exposure to them. And it really hinders this team. Playing in American home soil all the time, I guess going into this next World Cup, it's good because the next World Cup will be in the US, but it never hurts to get these players to play out of their comfort zones as a team, and including Gregg Berhalter, coaching in environments, playing in environments you guys are not comfortable with. Because if this game was in Uzbekistan or even in a neutral venue, I don't think it would have been the same. I do not think one bit the outcome would have at all been the same. Let's say their next game against Oman was in Oman. I definitely think the outcome would be a lot more different for this team. I think it is important for the US men's national team to try to not just have these friendlies against Uzbekistan when they played Morocco, whoever. These friendlies, put them in neutral grounds. We saw when they played the likes of Japan, Saudi Arabia in neutral venues, they struggled. They didn't win either of those games. And Saudi Arabia played a B team in that friendly. USA have struggled against the Asian opposition recently. They faced out against Japan, Saudi Arabia, Iran, now Uzbekistan. And then we'll see what happens against Oman. I don't want to jump the gun on anything at all. The USA, there's a lot of flaws. It starts a little bit with the federation. What investments? Who do you want to put as the figurehead for U.S. soccer? And right now, that's Gregg Berhalter. Then it trickles down to Gregg Berhalter. Poor squad selections, poor tactics, not being able to have this team play at the level they should be. The ceiling's been hit with Gregg. It's not getting any better. And in my opinion, if you're a USA fan, I don't see how the USA with Gregg, depending on how their draw goes, if they make a round of 16 or less, even a quarterfinals or less, it's not good for them in this next World Cup. That's called a failure in my eyes. This USA team has to be shooting for the stars, because what's the worst that can happen? You land on the moon. They need to be trying with this opportunity that they have, with this team that they have, with just everything, to be shooting for a semifinals at this World Cup. We have not seen the USA. I mean, I know they made it, I believe, to the quarterfinals in the 2002 World Cup. This could be an opportunity for US soccer to make a stance in the world of this sport, to say we are here to become one of the world's biggest national teams in this game. We are not a McDonald's FC team. We are a team that has players around Europe, but I think Gregg Berhalter is going to hold them back. I think some of the decisions U.S. soccer is making is what's holding them back. He has so many good players across Europe. This is a big opportunity. In this game against Uzbekistan, I don't mean to be I'm just a neutral watching this game. I am not a USA fan. And I am telling you guys, what's going on right now with the U.S., with how you're watching this team play, with the coach that they have, it's going to hinder you guys. Because if I'm telling you it's not a good move with what's been going on with Gregg, the tactics don't look good, watching these performances, I mean, I can't imagine what you guys are thinking. But again, my opinion only matters so much. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What was your guys' thoughts of this match? Was the scoreline flattering for the USA? Uzbekistan, were they just maybe a bit of the better team? Was the USA outclassed? Did the USA maybe stoop a level? I don't know. I definitely think that USA is, I mean, they definitely didn't play super well. They did start off the game very strong. Uzbekistan adjusted in the game pretty quickly. 25, 30 minutes in, Uzbekistan started feeling very comfortable and were really exposing the width of the US men's national team. But as I said, guys, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, make sure to check out this video next, where I talk about my thoughts on the rehiring of Gregg Berhalter. So just click this video if you guys want my opinions on his rehiring, more an in-depth analysis. Make sure to do that. And boys and girls, I hope you all have a lovely day.